What is chess? Chess is this unrivaled, undeniably unforgiving, and unsolvable game. It's one of the hardest games in the world to learn, and it may well be the hardest game in the world to master. Those of you who have been following this channel know that I have been struggling with that part a lot. Over the last few months, I've been hard stuck at around 1650 ELO in Rapid, and I actually had to take a step back from the channel, not because I wanted to, but because I needed to. I was tilting a lot. I wasn't progressing at all. I didn't have enough time to study my openings and get any better. And I've basically reached my complete wall in chess. So I had to take a step back for my own sanity. And something I learned while doing that was I had to return to my roots. And part of those roots, as you guys may well know, is a specific opening I like to play with black, a specific defense that is widely considered, at least in 2026, one of the worst defenses you can play with as black. And of course here I'm talking about Alekhine's defense. But I'd be remiss if I didn't ever on this channel talk about the pioneer of that opening, Alexander Alekhine, who had a very interesting path to the top. Let me set the scene for you. It's the early 20th century, the early Soviet Union, and Alexander Alekhine is growing up in Russia. By the age of 22, he was already considered one of the greatest players in the entire world, but he was a complete unknown to most people, including the world champion at the time and the much better known player, even in this day and age, from Cuba, José Raúl Capablanca. Now, Alekhine and Capablanca kind of personify two different sides of the chess world. Capablanca was this completely effortless, nonchalant, snobby chess player who would show up to pretty much any tournament that he wanted to. He could sit at the board, he could not study at all, and he would absolutely destroy you without breaking a sweat. Alekhine, on the other hand, grew up with the Russian school of chess. This guy was gritty, he was determined, and most importantly, he was not a chess genius. And honestly, that's one of the reasons that I think I relate to him a lot, is because he grinded his way to the top. No one considered him a chess master at that level until he got into the 1927 Chess World Championship. And by this time, Alekhine had already emigrated to France. You could probably understand why he might want to move out of 1920s Soviet Russia. So he was representing France, and he was to face Cuba's José Raúl Capablanca. And the lead up to this World Championship was already fraught with controversy. I mean, Capablanca, because of the weird rules that they had in place for the World Championships, which have still been evolving over time, he required a $10,000 buy-in, which at the time, in the chess world in the early 20th century, $10,000 was no small amount. And so he required his challenger to put up that amount of money as a wager in order to beat him. So that's exactly what Alekhine did. He made it to the 1927 World Chess Championship to face off against Capablanca. In this video, I want to show you exactly why Alexander Alekhine had a significant winning advantage in his head-to-head against Capablanca, the only player to have played this many games against Capablanca and still have a winning record. So without further ado, I know I've been rambling. Let's just get right into it with game one of this series. And I'm gonna start, on the black side of the board with Alekhine because, oh my God, this game was a doozy. Now, I do have to preface here the format of this World Chess Championship, because again, it has been changing so much over the years for those of you who are aware. For those of you who aren't, this specific championship required a first to six win format. So basically, both of these players would face off against each other in this literally 2.5 hour time control, an insane amount of time for one game. I mean, sometimes these games would go up to, 6 hours, right? 2.5 hours to make 40 moves, and then 16 moves per every hour after that. The players during this match played 34 games, okay? This championship started in September of 1927. It didn't end until November. Think about that for a second. So we have two players at the top of their game playing absolutely amazing chess, drawing most of the games, but this is game one. Okay, let's go. No more beating around the bush here. Capablanca opens with e4. Now, already interesting, because Capablanca's signature opening is actually d4. He usually likes to play a Queen's Gambit declined. And for whatever reason, he decided to play e4. Now, Alekhine said, okay, well, maybe this is baiting me into playing my signature Alekhine's defense, but maybe I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to do that today. Today I'm going to play e6, a French defense. Very classy, as he was also representing France at the time, right? Capablanca plays the most standard move of d4 following that, and then followed by d5, knight c3, bishop b4, e takes d5, e takes d5, bishop b3, knight c6, bishop d3, knight c6, all very standard stuff, right? You know, of course, the first game in a series like this is always so crucial to set the tone, especially if you're playing black, right? Oftentimes, on a stage this big, the person who's playing black doesn't even want to go for a win. They want to go for a draw. That's like their best option, right? But Alexander Alekhine was not most people. He wanted to come out swinging in this series. So we get a very balanced position here. Both players develop their queens and castle. Yeah, we get some of this. And this is actually technically, inaccuracies from both players. Doesn't really matter, though. Just defending the knight here. So we get castles. The knight is developed. Knight takes, bishop takes. And this is just very standard, developing moves. These are still inaccuracies, but at this level and during this time, these are completely fine moves. We get knight b4 attacking the queen here. And then we get queen b3, an interesting move, not necessarily the best in the position, although it is putting double pressure on this, d5 pawn with the knight and the queen. So what does Alekhine do here? He develops his queen to both protect and also add an attacker to the knight. Now, of course, the bishop can't actually take the knight here because then that would hang this knight. So it's not really threatening anything necessarily. However, after rook a to c1, Capablanca was actually just supposed to retreat. He was supposed to play something like knight e2. Oh, not knight e2. That would be a massive blunder. What was he supposed to play? He was supposed to play knight d3 here, which adds an attacker to the knight and just, defends his knight, brings everything back, makes it really nice and simple. However, he plays rook a to c1. And maybe Capablanca just wasn't that focused here, right? He's the reigning world champion. He's by far the favorite to win this match, playing against a player who he's never lost to before, right? But he was not expecting Alexander Alekhine in Game 1 of the 1927 World Chess Championship to play knight takes c2, sacrificing the knight on c2, which it's given an accuracy by the engine now, but I swear to God, the first time I saw it, definitely was given a brilliant move. I believe this is an honorary brilliant move, if nothing else. So why is this such a good move? I mean, why does Capablanca have to take, which he actually does do in the game, and it's the best move? Well, the first thing that makes a sacrifice good in chess is if the piece that's being sacrificed is making an immediate threat on the opponent's position, and in this case, the knight is forking both the white's rook and white's bishop. So there is a threat on the position. Now, of course, Capablanca does not want to allow the rook to be taken by the knight. He doesn't care if the bishop is taken, but he definitely doesn't want the knight to take the rook. But let's say instead of taking here, which is what happened in the game, let's say Capablanca goes here, which is just a miss. Rook e to d1, but it looks very natural, right? It's just saving your rook. It's saying, I don't care about this sacrifice. Well, then there's this funny theoretical line of knight takes e3, takes. We get queen e4. If the knight takes on d5, winning back the pawn, you can play queen h4, and if g3, you get another brilliant sacrifice with bishop takes g3, which just completely opens the position. And now, I mean, your king is just completely exposed. The queen has way too much activity. The rooks are ready to attack, and it's just not looking good for white. This is a completely lost position. So Capablanca probably calculated all of this, and he said, okay, well, I'm just going to take the knight. But now, in this position, Alekhine can play queen takes f4, which is also not given a brilliant because it's not actually a real sacrifice, because, of course, if you take the queen for seemingly free, you get back rank checkmated, which is a move I would absolutely play in this position if I was playing as white. But, of course, José Raúl Capablanca, he's the world champ, so he doesn't want to do that. He's also seeing that this is under attack, so instead he plays g3, a very, very good defensive resource, both stopping the checkmate on this side and attacking the queen at the same time. So what does Alekhine do? He just scoots back. He scoots back, which is a fine move. And then we have rook c to e2. But as you guys can see, from this whole sequence here where Alekhine just decided to chuck his knight, he ends up just up material, up one pawn against the reigning world champ. So this is a really, really cool way to start the world championship. Now we get a few more pawn moves, one more, queen move getting into a better position. And then after rook e4, I mean, Alekhine just has a very, very strong claim to this game. He's putting his rook on a very powerful square that it can't immediately, I guess it could be kicked with something like f3, but that, sincerely That sincerely weakens the position because after queen takes f3, it's just a free pawn. And then you're just, you're looking at some scary, scary stuff, right? So in this position, rook e4, we get bishop d2, and then, I mean, Alekhine just takes on d4, and all of a sudden, you're just up 2 pawns. You're up 2 pawns against the reigning champ in game 1 as black. So, of course, I'm sure at this point, Alekhine's nerves were going crazy. His heart rate was probably over 200. But we get bishop c3, rook d3, and bishop to e5. Takes, and then, Capablanca playing really great defense here, really trying everything he can to stop the onslaught of Alekhine's attack. But then here, Capablanca finds a really nice move. Rook takes h5. Again, not given a brilliant sacrifice here, but it's not really a sacrifice because, of course, after takes, we have a forced sequence after rook e8 check and queen takes d3. Check, which actually wins back the rook. So this is a very, very nice sequence to find here as counterplay. Of course, Raúl Capablanca is always looking for counterplay, in this position. And it's actually considered a mistake to take this rook. You're just supposed to completely ignore it. In fact, in this position, even if I saw this whole sequence, what I probably would have played, if I had enough time, I'd probably just play rook d1 and then get completely mated. So can't do that. See, this is where my brain is at right now. But we're not talking about me. We're talking about some of the best players in the world. So this is kind of a forced sequence. After takes, check here, and takes. I mean, this is like, maybe the best Alekhine could come up with in this situation. And if this game wasn't crazy enough, here's where it becomes an absolute roller coaster. We get queen g6, another great move, blocking the check. We get queen d1, and then rook e6, rook a8, and rook e5. Very strange move from Alekhine here. Just basically, I mean, it's changing from a blunder to a mistake. Basically just gives up a pawn. Maybe he was panicking a little bit. Again, his nerves were probably going crazy. He's up a pawn, I guess now no pawns against the reigning world champ. Plays c5, the best move in the position. Rook d7, and then queen e6. And he's just saying, no, I will not allow you to take back this advantage. I'm going to continue to march my pawns up the board. A4 is played, just kind of a desperate pawn push here by Capablanca, trying to make something happen. But after rook e1 check, queen c6 check, and rook e3, queen d1, we get kind of some shuffling here. But then after this sequence here, h5 is played, and after rook f2, Capablanca resigns because whatever you do in this position, let's say you push the pawn, I can just play rook f3 check, and actually your only move here is to sack the queen, in order to not get checkmated. Same thing as if you were to take the pawn. I can literally just, instead of taking this pawn this way and opening myself up to potential other checks, I actually just slide my king over to king g7, and after takes again, there's the same sequence with takes, and check, and you're just going to end up getting mated here. So black is in a massive advantage. Obviously, just up this much material. And if you guys didn't see the mate, it's let's say takes, it's check, and if the king just goes here, it's just going to be mate in 1 with queen h6. So that's how game 1 of the 1927 World Chess Championship ends. A very really just an insane maneuvering and tactical masterclass from Alekhine. I mean, completely and utterly took Capablanca by surprise. Capablanca doesn't even play his preferred opening. He plays e4 in this game and gets completely punished for it. And what's funny about this is that in every single game going forward, Capablanca refuses to play e4 again. He only plays d4. So maybe he's saying, all right, rookie, you got me this first time. You're not going to get me again. And it's not all sunshine and rainbows, for Alekhine. I mean, he had a really good start. I think the next 5 or 6 games they drew. But then this is the next game that one of the players actually took a big advantage, and it was Capablanca. Okay, so now we're still staying on Alekhine's side here. So Alekhine actually starts with d4. I was a little surprised by this because I don't know why, but I guess I didn't really know that he also played the Queen's Gambit declined with white, which is pretty funny because that is Capablanca's signature opening. So they're both kind of like, playing some mind games with each other. Okay, well, if you're not going to play your signature opening, I'm going to play your signature opening against you, right? And, after knight f3, b6, this just kind of turns into, it is a Queen's Gambit declined. It's kind of a weird like transposition where it starts as like an East India defense. Then it becomes a Queen's Gambit declined after something like c5. d5 is played, closing out the center. And I didn't even mention this in the first game, but all of these moves, knight h4, putting your knight on the rim of the board, which is never usually considered a good move. This is all theory. Even in 1927, even in the early 1900s, both of these players knew an insane amount of theory and were very prepped. Capablanca probably just prepped by being a chess genius and also, being as good as he was. But Alekhine really going toe-to-toe with him with all of these book moves. This is all book up until Castles and Castles. And where do we get the first? Yeah, this is where we get the first delineation from the theory. So after 10 moves of the game, all the way up until the 10th move of the game, both of these players knew exactly what they were doing. And it seemed like Alekhine, had played bishop f4 a lot, because I think I saw in another game he played the same structure as white, and it ended up in a lot of draws, which is fine. That's fine. You're technically up in games right now. At this point, he still had one win, or maybe even two, and Capablanca had none. So obviously Capablanca is, he's not necessarily playing for a win because he's playing as black, but he definitely does not want to lose this. He definitely does not want to lose, and a win would be the best case scenario for him. So after c takes, we have knight h5 here, bishop d2, and as you can see, both of these players now just have knights chilling on the side of the board next to each other. Like, when do you ever see this kind of structure? I guess you maybe see it a lot if you play the King's Indian, but this is just a really funny configuration of knights here. But then all of a sudden, f4 is played by Alekhine here, and it's just a small inaccuracy, but Capablanca all of a sudden is winning, right? He just has a slight advantage in the position. And the problem with something like f4, a move like f4, which I play moves like this all the time because I'm bad, it's basically an announcement of like, hey, I'm attacking you, right? I'm gonna just start storming my pawns up the board. This is the classic, King's Indian attack formation. We're gonna get all of our kingside pawns, advance on the board, try to attack you on your king side. And as we continue through this game, we kind of realize that Alekhine doesn't really have enough firepower here. He pushes g5, which is great, pushing the knight back, and then f5 is played, rook f to e8. And honestly, my first instinct in this position would probably be to push f6, which is just not a good move. Just not a good move. You could just take this, and then I take, which is fine, but, I just lose a pawn, and then your rook is pretty well developed. I guess you don't even have to take that pawn. But of course, these guys are masters. Instead, we get bishop f4, just saving the bishop and also putting this pin on the queen. But here comes Capablanca. Bishop e5, we get bishop g4 played, knight b3 attacking the rook. And then, and then here Alekhine actually decides to play the best move of the position, f takes g6, which, having his rook hanging, his bishop under attack, so much chaos on the board here, he decides, all right, I'm just going to take this. And then what happens in the game? We get takes back with h takes g6, rook b1, bishop takes c3, b takes c3, and then we get queen c5 check. And guys, what did I just say? What was this? Like literally 11 moves ago, right? He played f4. The problem with f4, other than it being, just a little bit too aggressive and saying I'm attacking you with not enough firepower, it also ends up, you get in this position where your king is susceptible to checks on this diagonal. And Capablanca is so good that he's able to maneuver his pieces so much, he gets into a position where he can give this check, and by the time he gives this check, it is just completely winning for Capablanca here. +1 isn't like crazy for anyone rated under 2,000, but once you get to the master level, this is just a completely winning position for black, and Capablanca is not going to let this go. We get e3, which is just not that great of a move. Knight e5 comes in, bishop f3, and then knight d3. Here comes Capablanca. Look at these knights. Oh my goodness. Supported by one pawn and the queen. They're going to attack everything. They're far too powerful on their own. You can't really sack to take this. That just wouldn't be that good. And, Alekhine just goes king h1, which is actually the best move in the position. I mean, again, imagine being in this much of a chaotic position where the knights are attacking you, your queen is pinned to this pawn, which is pinned to your king, and then you just play king h1. I mean, such a master. But unfortunately, that doesn't stop the fact that he just drops a pawn. Now he's just down a pawn, and he actually does decide to sack the rook here, just looking for some counterplay. But then, Capablanca just finds this really, really nice sequence where instead of just taking the rook and giving up the knight, he actually takes the bishop on f4, and then the rook just comes back. And then again, he gets into this position where he causes a forced trade of pieces that just ends up making him better in the end. So he takes on e3, rook takes e3, which is considered a great move. Knight comes back to g2 to try to attack, but then the rook just takes. And this isn't considered like a sacrifice or anything, because after whatever you take with, you can't take with the queen because it just gets taken. You have to take with the rook. And after takes, knight takes g2 and king takes, you're just going to end up with a pinned rook. So there's literally nothing that white can do in this situation to gain back material. And then all of a sudden, Capablanca is just up 6 points in the analysis here, because again, your rook is pinned. Opponent can try to create some more attacking over on this side. You bring his other rook in, and Alekhine, and that's exactly what he does. He plays rook e8. King comes to f1. Capablanca cashes in on the rook. Queen takes, and then queen takes g5, and again, just losing another pawn. And there's just not enough. I mean, yeah, Alekhine decides to trade the rooks here, which it's a fine move, but Alekhine just does not have enough firepower here. And he fights on for a little bit, tries to win back a couple more pawns, but after queen e2 check, Alekhine resigns. You can go up here, you can continue to get checked, you can try to win back these pawns, but black just has 2 passed pawns here. There's no way that this one pawn is going to do any good, and so Alekhine resigns. I just wanted to show this game to show that these games were not easy. I mean, even if Capablanca wasn't completely prepared here, he's an absolute master of the game. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows how to maneuver his pieces. He knows how to get into a position where, after just one small inaccuracy on the, on the 13th move of the game, after this one inaccuracy, he takes complete advantage. And really, Alekhine played almost perfectly besides this one push. And yet, we get these moves where Capablanca is just taking full advantage of this positional game here. And I just love this position, seeing these knights just completely dominant over all of these squares. Like, where are you going to go? And then again, this really nice sequence of after Alekhine tries to find some kind of counterplay with takes, instead Capablanca stays calm. He captures the bishop, rook comes back, and then and what does he do? Yeah, and then he captures on here. Just a complete optimal way to play here. And by the way, in this game, Capablanca played with a nearly 94% accuracy, Alekhine with an 86. And in game 1, even though it was a little bit rocky towards the end, Alekhine still played with an over 90% accuracy. Capablanca played with an 82.8. So at the time, right, and you can see their FIDE ELOs here, 2725 to 2690. I mean, they were, even in the early 20th century, these players were playing out of their minds. So the games continue. The players go back and forth, several draws in the future. They end up going to a point where it's actually 5 wins for Alekhine to 2 wins for Capablanca. But despite living in France and representing them at the time of this match, let's not forget that Alekhine grew up in the Russian school of chess, which absolutely dominated the chess world in multiple chess eras. Maybe not this one, but very soon after and very soon before, right? And one thing Russian players were known for at the time was their insane preparation. And according to chess historians, Alexander Alekhine spent countless hours studying his games against Capablanca, Capablanca's games against other masters, trying to find small inaccuracies, just small mistakes that Capablanca makes in his openings in order to take advantage of them in the middle game and eventually win the games. I mean, he was looking for literally everything he could. By all means, this match was a shoo-in for Capablanca. I mean, I'm sure if there was, online gambling at the time, the line would probably be like plus 500 to Capablanca, right? It was just absolutely insane. No one was expecting Alekhine, first of all, to win the first game, and then to also be winning when it came to the 34th game. And Capablanca, on the other hand, like I had mentioned before, was reported to be a little bit unfocused here, right? I mean, he was the reigning champ and an undisputed best player of his time. Alekhine had a completely losing record against him in tournament. In fact, of the 12 games that they played in the past, Capablanca had won 5 and drawn 7. So it's safe to say he wasn't concerned. Even if he was down 3 games, okay, he's been in this position before, he'll fight his way back, right? But he should have been concerned. Alekhine came for one purpose only, and that purpose was to win. So here we are. This is the 34th game of this series, and the players had already been playing against each other for 2 months straight, which is breaking a record by far for the longest World Chess Championship match to ever exist, right? The record was actually not broken again until the 80s in Kasparov versus Karpov's World Championship match, 50-some odd years later. So insane stuff. But as you can probably guess, the mental fatigue in this match must have been at an all-time high. But all Alekhine needed was that one more win. So here we go. We have Alekhine playing with the white pieces. We get d4, knight f6, c4, e6, and then we get knight c3, which is just a small sideline from the first game that we saw when Alekhine was playing white, where he played knight f3. Knight c3, I mean, it's still theory. It's still a completely fine move. I guess the computer gives just a slightly more of an advantage to black here. But then we get d5, so already we have a completely different game than the last one we saw, even though it is still Queen's Gambit decline. Again, these players are all only playing moves of theory until, the 10th move of the game. We get castles, we get rook c1, c6. All of this is normal stuff. This is all known moves and theory moves, which is just insane, again, to think about in the early 1900s that these players were doing this. The first non-theory move we get is after h6, which I do believe is still theory, right? Okay, no. h6 just kicks the bishop. Bishop comes back, and then we have rook e8. Rook d1 is played, not the best move in the position, but definitely not bad. And Capablanca strikes on the wing with b5. Now, there's an option here for Alekhine to take either the d-pawn or the b-pawn. He opts to go for the d-pawn, which is the best move in the position. We get recaptures. We get bishop d3, putting a battery on this king here. And then we get bishop b7, we get castles, rook c8, queen b1. Okay, but in this position, after queen b1, black can actually just win a pawn here with bishop takes a3. A very, very simple tactic, because of course if you take, we have takes here, which actually also attacks the bishop. So it's a great move, attacks the pawn and the bishop here. This is a really good move. For some reason, whether he saw it or not, Capablanca did not play that move, and he played queen a5, putting extra pressure on the pawn. And then, Alekhine moves his knight out of the way, so he stops that tactic from being possible. Knight b6 gets played, and at this point in the game, after knight b6, is where we see Alekhine's true specialty in the game of chess. And this is something that I really want to try to take some inspiration from him in the future. He was one of, if not the best, piece maneuvering chess player to ever live. Watch this next sequence, where Alekhine goes knight e5. Technically not the best move in the position, right? But he goes knight e5 because he doesn't want to take this knight. No. He wants to continue moving this knight around forever, right? So instead, he takes the knight on f6. Bishop recaptures. Then he just gives this check for good measure. And this isn't actually even for just for good measure. This is actually a completely calculated move. Because after this check, the king is forced to move to either of these two squares. If he moves here, he literally gets mated. So this is actually a pretty nasty move, bishop h7 check, right? Which he had been planning for a long time, in the beginning of this game, putting a battery on this diagonal here. So of course, only move for Capablanca here, king f8. Then we get knight d7 check. So there is still another check in the position. And Alekhine finds it. This is all part of his plan. He really just wanted to play after king e7. The entire plan of this first knight move to e5 was to plant his knight on c5, which again, the computer doesn't even really like it. But if you're playing as black in this position, look at this. I mean, this knight is an absolute monster. This knight is probably better than both of these rooks right now in this point of the game, right? So Alekhine just played, let's go back through the sequence again. Knight e5. Bishop takes f6 so that he can play bishop h7 check, knight d7 check, and knight c5. Absolutely beautiful maneuvering here. And actually, the computer calls this a mistake because the best move in the position is to sack the exchange. The computer is saying that this is the best move. However, it's still considered a mistake for some reason. But yeah, instead, Capablanca in this position, he doesn't want to sack his rook for no reason. Yes, it's a very powerful knight, but he's probably just going to take my bishop, right? Well, that's exactly what Alekhine does. He probably actually saw that if after queen b6, if he were to just keep his knight here, let's say he plays something like another developing move like knight f4, then you can definitely sack because that's actually considered a brilliant move now. Because after takes, we have queen takes c5, and now your queen is actually in a very dominant position here. Your knight's going to come in. It's going to be a good time for the black pieces. So instead, he takes the bishop as with knight takes b7. Really not, still not the best move he could have made, but it doesn't really matter. He got his knight in that beautiful position, and that maneuvering game is just amazing to watch. We get queen d2 here, queen b6, and then rook c1, and my guy Alekhine, he's just starting to maneuver all of his pieces into the right, like onto the open file here, challenging these other two rooks. Capablanca says, no, you can't just take this. So he says, I'm going to take it anyway. Rook takes c7 check. And then we have bishop b1, which is a very, very mystifying move here. It's fine. Like, it's a good move. But then we get bishop b7, knight f4, and after king c8, I mean, these players are still very equal, but you can notice even like all the way back here when Alekhine made that great sequence of moves, he was just barely winning in this position. I mean, he really didn't have a winning position, and then this is actually his first losing position, but Capablanca doesn't take advantage of it, and after a couple more trades and some more maneuvering, we get knight d3, and then knight e4 is played, which does look like a very strong move. But the computer actually gives it a mistake here because although the knight's planning on coming into here, blah, 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 there's no real threat to this knight move. It looks really pretty, but it's not actually that good. But I guess the other thing that this knight move does is it stops the knight from coming into here, which is definitely what Alekhine wanted to do. Because we get b4, then we get rook c3, queen b2, queen c7 is actually a mistake because, again, now Alekhine can play knight c5, which is now a great move. If they go here, and of course if you take here, I can just take your rook, and then wherever your knight moves, your knight's just going to perish. So that's completely winning for white. If you were to take with the bishop, kind of same situation where I could just take back with, I guess, either one of these pawns. I guess d takes is probably better, keeping the position on this side pretty locked down. And then now your rook is under attack, and it's actually like almost trapped. Like you can go here, but there's really not a lot of space for your rook, and you're going to end up just kicking the knight and taking the rook. So really, really nice move. Nice find here by Alekhine, knight c5. And then we do have bishop takes, we have d takes, and queen e5 is played, but f4, the same move that in the last game lost Alekhine the game, is now the champion pawn of this entire game. f4, both attacking the queen, forcing it to go back, and also pushing kingside pawns up the board, trying to build an attack here. Queen goes to g7, but then after takes and king f2, I mean, Alekhine is just in a completely winning position here. Capablanca's on the ropes. He's trying to make some kind of counterplay happen, but after g3, g5, rook c1, that's it. Capablanca resigns in this position because you can no longer defend the rook. I mean, insane. So after 34 games, Alexander Alekhine emerges the champion of chess against Capablanca, the undisputed GOAT of the 1920s. Insane. Absolutely insane. And this guy came out of nowhere. Like I was saying, like, no pun intended, he was the dark horse of the chess world at this time. No one expected him to get this far. No one expected him to raise the $10,000 that he needed. No one expected him to go toe-to-toe with Capablanca and then actually just outclass him in so many ways in this tournament. It's absolutely insane to watch. I've really enjoyed creating this video because it really helped me, appreciate and admire chess of the past. It really helped me understand why masters play the way they do and what makes a master, because I am nowhere near that level yet. And, maybe I never will be, because looking at this game that happened this is 99 years ago, guys. 99 years ago, almost an entire century ago. And both players were still playing with, as if we can see this here, I believe both players in this game had over 90% accuracy, which is absolutely insane. I mean, look at this, 96% accuracy from Alekhine, 91, almost 92% accuracy from Capablanca. Capablanca played, the best he could in this opening in this game. But like I said, Alekhine's greatest strengths, his preparation and his maneuvering. We get this crazy knight maneuver in the beginning of the game, which puts Alekhine's knight in this great position, and we just build on it from there. A few more trades. And and after this sequence with knight c5, I mean, just a beautiful, beautiful maneuvering game. f4, the same pawn that betrayed him in one of his first losses to Capablanca, now becomes the hero of the game. And that's it. Capablanca resigns, and this game is over. The championship is over after 34 games. So this kind of closes the chapter on the head-to-head between Alekhine and Capablanca. Now, there was a little bit of controversy following the match, since Alekhine offered to play him again at the same stakes that were offered to him, so another $10,000 buy-in. But because of strange, world chess rules and probably some hubris from both sides, this rematch never came to be. They did eventually play each other almost a decade later at the Nottingham Chess Tournament in 1936, which ended in a hard-fought draw, and then again at Arvo 1938, where he dominated Capablanca with a strong win. So this puts Alexander Alekhine, once again, the dark horse of the chess world in the 1920s and 30s, as the only player to have a significantly winning head-to-head against Capablanca, winning 9 to Capablanca 7 and drawing 36 games in their illustrious and colorful history. And that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this kind of content, I know this is very different from my normal stuff, breaking down Masters games and all that. Once again, if you like the video, just like the video and subscribe and comment on how much you like Alexander Alekhine, or how much you like Capablanca, or how much I should stop playing the Alekhine's defense. It really helps the channel, and I'm really glad that you guys are still supporting me even up to this point. I could not be more grateful for the community we've built here. Also, check out my Instagram, because it has been doing pretty well. I guess you guys like the reels a lot more on Instagram than you do on YouTube. Thank you guys for watching. This has been Chess Plays Gabe, the channel where I get absolutely demolished in chess, or sometimes break down Masters games in history, I guess. I guess I'll just see you guys in the next one. Like, subscribe. See you later. Should I continue my road to 2,000? I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. I'll see you guys there. Bye-bye. See ya. Bye-bye.